This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Gemach Simatayva, Ben Shiur. Pasuk says in Tehillim, L'David Hashem Oiri v'Yishi. Hashem is my light, Oiri v'Yishi, Hashem is my salvation. And there's a famous comment of the Medrash Me'ikar Rabbah, Parsha Chaf Aleph, Rabbanan, Pasuk Kra B'Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippurim. The Chachamim interpret the pasuk is speaking about Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Oiri b'Rosh Hashanah. Oiri refers to Rosh Hashanah. V'Yishi b'Yom Kippurim. Hashem is my light on Rosh Hashanah. Hashem is my salvation on Yom Kippur. And Rabbi Tzla Petterberg brings down in the name of his holy Rebbe, Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, a very powerful question, a very strong question, a question that we should really all be asking ourselves. And that is, everybody knows that on Rosh Hashanah Hashem judged us. Whether we're going to have Chayim, whether we're going to have Shalom, whether we're going to have Parnasa, good health, Banei Chaye U'Mezonei, everything we want, everything we hope for, everything we wish for, Hashem judged on Rosh Hashanah. What was that judgment based on? So, Hashem likes, my tie. What is it based on? Hashem likes a suit. Hashem, what's the judgment based on? Everybody knows mitzvahs and averos. Hashem takes out the big scales, the big maiznayim, and He measures, He weighs, He calculates. You have more mitzvahs and averos. Good year. Chas v'shalom, the opposite. The opposite. Everybody knows what it's based on. So asks Rabbi Yisrael Salanter a very pashut kasha. Why in the world is Yom Kippur after Rosh Hashanah? Let Hashem give Yom Kippur. This way we'll get off all of our averos, all the Lashon Hara, all the Bitul Torah, all the Einas Dvarim, all the Chatoim, all the Avonos will disappear, be wiped away. So then when Rosh Hashanah comes, Hashem will see 100 mitzvahs and no averos, will get a good year. I mean, it's backwards. What's the chachma of giving Yom Kippur after Rosh Hashanah? Everybody knows Hashem is chafetz chesed. Everybody knows that Hashem wants to do good to Klal Yisrael. He wants to give us a good judgment. Lo chafetz b'mais hameis. The Rebbe Hashem doesn't want to give us. So why give us Yom Kippur right after when we don't need it anymore? I mean, when we have Yom Kippur? When we don't need it. Give Yom Kippur. This way we get off all of our averos, and when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, we'll have a good year. I mean, doesn't Hashem want... It's like sadistic almost, chas v'shalom.
But it says, Rosh Hashanah, you could say, Yom Kippur...
Maybe that's only Beinanim. That's only Beinanim.
The trial, they do the closing argument, right? But then you have one final in the sentencing phase, so to speak. You have a chance to, once again, bring your skuyos and your malos before you...
But that, according to most Rishonim, Rosh Hashanah... Yom Kippur Yechaseimon, that's only for Beinanim. But Tzadikim, they're already signed and sealed. Risham already signed and sealed. The main purpose of Yom Kippur is only for a small minority of the people who are Beinanim. The main purpose of Yom Kippur is Kaparas Avonos, which most people really don't need anymore. Most people, why give... The logical way to do it, the reasonable way to do it, is to give a Yom Kippur, get off all your chatam, say your vida, your ashamnu, baganu, and this way Rosh Hashanah comes, you have a clean slate. Why give a Rosh Hashanah at the time of the year that we've accumulated the most averos? That's a very strong question. You think about it. When does Yom Kippur come out? Right after we don't need it anymore. Yeah, it gives a Pesach to Beinanim, but what are the chances someone's a Beinanim? We don't know exactly. We have to assume we're Beinanim. But still, the likelihood of somebody being a Beinani to be 50-50, most people are either more mitzvahs than averos or more averos than mitzvahs. Why would the Rebbeinu Shalom give Yom Kippur after Rosh Hashanah? Says Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, the reason why we think of this question is because our minds have been conditioned to think backward. Backward? Sounds like forward thinking to me. No. Because most of us, because we live here in this physical world, in Olam Hazeh, we tend to think, what's important in life? Good health, money, parnasa, nachas, all the physical things we need, food, clothing, shelter. We see what all we know about is what we see with our own eyes. So what do we think about on Rosh Hashanah? We Think about Banei Chayim Mezoneh. Our health, our children's health, our family's health. We want to have Parnasa. We want to have Gesund. We want to pay the bills. So we see things in the light of this world. When we make decisions, where should we send our kid to school? Oh, where he'll have the best future in this world. Where should I daven? Where it's most convenient for me in this world. We see everything from the standpoint of Olam Hazeh. But you know what? That's very silly. Imagine if somebody came into the kollel today saying, there's no air conditioning on in the lobby here. So it's very hot in the lobby. So since it's so hot, I'm going to come in, in my shorts and a tank top because it's so hot in the lobby. Yeah, but silly. Inside, once you get inside, you're going to be sitting here for an hour. It's cool in here. The air conditioner is on. Why prepare for a small hallway if you're only spending a limited time there? You're going to be in the main room for the majority of the time. You're only stepping through the hallway for a split second. Somebody who lives life thinking about this world is equally as silly. Because you know what? This world, as long as it seems it lasts, is fleeting, is only temporary. Olam haba. How long is Olam haba? Olam haba is forever. How long is forever? Forever is a very long time. You know how long forever is? If there would be, let's say, a mound of sand on this table, up to the ceiling, and every 100 million years a bird would come along and take off 1 grain of sand and move it to that table. How long would it take the bird to remove all the sand from this table to that table? It would take a very long time, right? And Olam Haba is infinitely longer than that. It's forever. And how long is this world? Even if this world would be 1 million years long, even if you would live for 1 million years, eventually it would come to an end, and on your last day you would say, wow, boy, did the time fly. That's what Rabbeinu Yonah writes. So Olam Haba is forever. Olam Hazeh is temporary. Olam Hazeh is like a drop. Olam Haba is like the ocean. This world is like the hallway. Olam Haba is like the mansion. Olam Hazeh doimel lefroizdar. Olam Haba doimel letraklin. Hasken atzmacha beproizdar. Kedei shetikanes letraklin. Says Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. If you think of life in terms of this world, the fact that Rosh Hashanah comes before Yom Kippur is completely illogical. Because for this world's purposes, we'd be much better off with the Yom Kippur. Get off your chatan. Then we'll be judged. You'll have good life. You'll have good health. You'll have parnasa berevach. You'll have whatever you need. But you know what? As much as Hashem wants to give us a good Olam Hazeh, you know what He wants even more? He wants to give us what we were created for. And that is Olam Haba. And if the Rebbeinu Shalom would first give us a Yom Kippur, and He would say, okay, everyone go to shul and fast for your chatan. And we say, chatan? Why should I fast for my chatan? Rebbeinu Shalom says, because don't you know you're going to be in Olam Haba forever and ever and ever? And we say, what's Olam Haba? I don't know what Olam Haba is. I live in Olam Hazeh. I can't relate to Olam Haba. Don't tell me about Olam Haba. Yom Kippur would be completely meaningless if it came before Rosh Hashanah. We would come to shul, we would be clapping the al chait, and it would have no meaning. Who cares about our chatoim? Who cares about our avonos? We can't relate to the fact that we've sullied our neshama. We can't relate to the fact that this is going to affect us forever and ever and ever, because we only see Olam Hazeh. So you know what the Rebbeinu Shalom does? He gets us into the mode. He warms our hearts, right? You tell somebody, if you do an aveh, if you speak Lashon Hara, you're going to go to Gehenna. Does that mean anything to anybody? Nothing. What is Gehenna? We have no idea what it is. You tell them, it's very hot there. We can't relate to it. We have no, if you do a mitzvah, you're going to bask in the glory of the Shekhinah. What does that mean? Well, is that like sitting in Florida? What does it mean to bask in the glory of the Shekhinah? Is that like going on vacation? And what does that mean? So you tell somebody about Olam Haba, he looks you in the face and says, say what? What in the world is Olam Haba? It has no meaning to us. Olam Haba, we can't sense it, we can't see it, we can't feel it, we can't touch it. Yom Kippur, Olam Haba is so far removed from anything meaningful to us. Had the Rebbeinu Shalom just given us a Yom Kippur, we wouldn't know what to do with it. So you know what He does? Rebbeinu Shalom says, let me initiate you into this process. You're going to go to Shul on Rosh Hashanah, and you're going to say that forget about Olam Haba. Whether you're going to live this year, it's dependent on your actions. Whether you have money this year, it's dependent on your actions. Whether you have good health this year, oh, money, I know what money is. Yeah. Money, I know what it is. I know what life is. I know what good health is. I want those things. I could relate to those things. I want to have Shalom Bayis. I want to have Nachas for my children. All of those things I could relate to. What do I need to do? Tell me how to get it. Tell me how to get it. Oh, Torah and mitzvahs. Okay, if that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do. I'll do anything for money. I'll do anything for good health. So we go to Shul Rosh Hashanah, we say, Ribbonu Shalayla, right, mi yichya, mi yamos. We talk about how our life is on the line. We talk about how this affects our physical beings. And we start getting into the process of introspection, thinking about our actions. And then the Ribbonu Shalom says, guess what? Rosh Hashanah is only first base. I want to get you to home plate. You know what home plate is? You know what I'm really getting at? Not your life, not your health, not your children, not your money. I'm talking about Olam Haba, what you were created for. How are you going to get me there? Well, Rosh Hashanah prepares us, but the greatest salvation is Yom Kippur. Because while Rosh Hashanah affects us in this world, Yom Kippur affects us for the world to come. And if we could say that Rosh Hashanah is our most important day for Olam Hazeh, our most important day for Olam Haba is Yom Kippur. In fact, if we could try to select a day, what is the most important day in all eternity? Yom Kippur, no question. There is no other day in the course of the year that we're able to affect our forever. Our forever, right? You ever go away for Shabbos? I don't know, when I go away, it's crazy the amount of things we have to pack. Right? Just to go away for one Shabbos to my parents, and if there's suitcases, all kinds of suitcases, like we'd be going to Alaska. Right? This, just in case it's hot, just in case it's cold, just in case it's medium. Right? The 3 bottles, just in case the first, right? And that's to go away for Shabbos. Imagine you go away for 2 weeks, right? What people take with them. They have to call relatives who are leaving 2 weeks before to take luggage for them. And imagine how much you have to take if you went away for a year. Right? When I was moving apartments, I don't know, what do I need all this stuff for? Where did it come from? Right? And if you're going away forever and ever and ever, you need to take a lot of belongings with you. Because what are you going to do after 100 years if you have nothing to eat anymore? So you have to make sure you have enough mitzvahs to feed you, not for 100 years, not for 1,000 years, forever. That's what Rabbi Zera said. It's a far voyage and not enough provisions. Archaka rechika, zavida kalila. And therefore, the Gemara tells us in Masechta Tainis, what is the happiest day of the year? The best day of the year. Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the best day of the year. We're thinking Yom Kippur is the best day of the year. If that's the best day, who needs worse days, right? But Yom Kippur is the best day of the year. Because it's the one day a year that in one day, you could save yourself, not for a year, not for 2 years, not for 10 years, not for 100 years, forever and ever and ever. That avera of Lashon Hara, that could have been haunting you for your entire existence, in one day, you take the sponge, you take the soap, you clean it off, and you're good to go. You're clean forever. The best day of the year. Says Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, in terms of this world, first we would like Yom Kippur, then we would like a Rosh Hashanah. But in terms of Olam Haba, we're much better off first with Rosh Hashanah and then with Yom Kippur. Because without the light of Rosh Hashanah, without the penetrating light of truth, that Rosh Hashanah wakes us up and allows us to see with clarity what this world is about, we wouldn't be able to take advantage of the Yishi, the salvation of Yom Kippur. That's what it means, Hashem Oiri, the Yishi.
Yom Kippur is mechaper beinadam l'makam, right? Not beinadam l'chaver.
Right.
So if you have many problems that you need kapara for beinadam l'chaver, and you haven't asked from the Piwa, so does Yom Kippur still guarantee that you're going to go to Olam Haba because it wipes out the averas beinadam l'makam?
No.
So there's no guarantee that Yom Kippur gets you. It's not a pass, automatic pass.
No. And also Yom Kippur alone. What if a person just sits in shul on Yom Kippur and fasts, and that's all he does? What has he accomplished? Nothing. If you don't do tshuva on Yom Kippur is not doing anything for you. It's not doing anything for you. So what we're going to talk about is that Yom Kippur...
The concept of the day is mechaper.
Yeah, we don't pass it like that. It's machlekes. Rebbe holds the day alone is mechaper. We hold without tshuva, Yom Kippur doesn't... You know how much Yom Kippur does without tshuva? 2 big zeros. 2 big... You get rewarded for fasting. Yom Kippur, B'li Tshuva, the Gemara in Yuma Paskins is Eina Moyel. Eina Moyel. Eina Moyel. Tshuva means you gotta do 4 things, right? There are 4 parts of tshuva. Tshuva is Vidoy, Azivas Hachet, to stop doing the Avera. Charata, you regret it. Kabbalah al Asid, you commit not to do it again. But just to fast on Yom Kippur, you'll be rewarded for that. But in terms of what the day atones for, without tshuva, the day atones for nothing. Right? Rebbe holds. Rebbe is of the opinion Yom Kippur is mechaper b'lay tshuva. But the Gemara doesn't pass like that. So what we want to talk a little bit, once in a while we're going to talk about a very, it's a dirty subject. It's a very, this is the one word, very dirty word. It's the one word the Yetzer Hara does not want us to talk about. He'll let you learn, he'll let you daven, he'll let you do chesed, but don't talk about this. The Yetzer Hara that hears this word, he goes berserk. Olam haba. Olam haba, when you talk about Olam haba, the Yetzer Hara starts getting very nervous. Because Ramchal writes, the strongest ingredient against the Yetzer Hara is recognizing that Olam hazeh is a preparation for Olam haba. So we have a Gemara in Brachos, a very frightening Gemara. It says the Gemara in Brachos, Avchav Ches Amud Beis, look at number 5. K'shechala Rabbi Ben Zakai, when Rabbi Ben Zakai fell ill, Nichnasu Talmidav Levakra, his students came to visit him. Kivan Shara Isam, when he saw them, Hischal Livkos, he started to cry. Amru Loi Talmidav, so his student said, what are you crying, Rebbe? Ner Yisrael, Amod Hayamini, Patish HaChazak, Mibnei Ma'ata Boicha, what are you crying? What are you worried about? You're the Gadol Adar. You're the Gadol Adar. By the way, you take a look in the Gemara in Masechta Baba Basra, Daf Kuf Lamed Dalet. You know what Rabbi Ben Zakai knew? Look at number 7. Rabbi Ben Zakai knew Chumash, Mishnah, Gemara, Halacha, Agada, Dikduke Torah, Dikduke Sofrim, Kal V'chomer, Gzeira Shava, Tekufais, Gematriyais, Kaichavim. He understood when the trees would talk to each other, when the leaves were rustling in the wind. Rabbi Ben Zakai knew what they were saying. Rabbi Ben Zakai knew what the birds were saying. Rabbi Ben Zakai knew what the Malachei Hasharis were saying. There is nothing Rabbi Ben Zakai didn't know. He was the leader, the Gadol Hadar. And he's crying, Kaidim Petira. They said, Rebbe, what are you crying? Amar Lahem, he said, what? What do you mean why I'm crying? If they were taking me to a king of flesh and blood, let's say they were taking me to the ruler of Syria, or they were taking me to, the ruler of Iran. Today he's here, tomorrow he's gone. If he would get angry at me, he wouldn't be angry at me forever. And if he would lock me up in jail, it wouldn't be forever. Either he would die, or Rabbi Ben Zakai would say, I would go, but it wouldn't be forever. If he would kill me, I could always try to sweet talk him, I could always cajole him, I could always persuade him. Or and I would tell him, you take American Express? No, I could always bribe him. Yeah, he would say, you're out of here, right? No, see you later. Right? You hand over the credit card, you're out. And even so, if you're going to a king of flesh and blood, hayisi baicha, I would cry. The achshav shemaylichin oisi. But now that they're taking me, lifnei melech ma'achei amlach v'kadosh baruch hu, shehu chai v'kayam. The Rebbeinu Shalom is alive, la'olam u'yomei olamim, forever and ever. And she'im koyes olai kasei kas olam. If God would get angry at me, it would be forever. V'im if he would lock me up, yisura yisur olam. V'im miseni misasa misas olam. V'yeni yachal I can't sweet talk God out of the punishment. V'loy l'shachar b'mammon, I can't pay him up if I say Hashem. You take American Express, you go, sorry, I don't take American Express. I don't take Discover either. Can't bribe Hashem. V'loy listen to this. sheyesh lefanai shnei drachim. Says Rabbi Ben Zakai, the Manhig Hadar, the Gadol Hadar. There are two directions, two pathways in front of me. Acha shel Gan Eden bi'acha shel Gehenna be'eni yoidea be'ezoi moilichin oisi v'lo yevka. I could be taken to Gan Eden. I could be taken to Gehenna. I don't know where they're going to take me, and I shouldn't cry. It's a number of very strong questions you could ask on this Gemara. First of all, what's he adding? Not only that, but there are two ways, there are two roads in front of me. One of Gan Eden, one of Gehenna, and I don't know which one I'm going. You already said that, Rabbi Ben Zakai. You said, maybe Hashem will get angry at you forever, maybe He'll lock you up forever, maybe He'll kill you forever. So what's he adding? And I don't know where they're going to take me, Gan Eden or Gehenna. You just said that. What's he bringing in Gan Eden for? Why does the prospect of Gan Eden scare him? So Itzler Petterberg brings out a very fundamental idea that we all know, but maybe we never thought of. Reward and punishment in this world. You're a good Samaritan. You come out of the Shiur today, you're on Main Street, you see a nice old lady. She can't cross the street. So what do? You help her cross the street. Wonderful. Fine. The old man, you help him cross the street. And then all of a sudden you help him cross the street, and the mayor is driving by and he sees this good deed. He says, wow, what a good deed. He comes, he said, call the press. You know, the media comes down, they take pictures of you crossing the old man, you're in the newspaper, they put a medallion around your chest, and you know, you have a press conference at City Hall, and they bestow on you medals and honors, they reward you. What would have happened had you said to the old man, I need help crossing the street. Sorry, I can't. I have to run. Would you be punished for not helping him? No. No, you wouldn't be punished. You could have gone out of your way to do an extra good deed, and if you do it, you may be rewarded. But not doing the good deed will not punish you. In this world, anything potentially you could be rewarded for, you'll never be punished for not doing it. What will you be rewarded for in this world? If you go out of your way to do something extra special, maybe you'll be rewarded. In other words, the people who stay when shul is over to help us set up and clean up, maybe when the shul has a dinner, they'll honor them. Right? They'll honor them, they'll call them up, and they'll give them a plaque, and they'll take pictures, and people will write in the journal all kinds of brachos. Very nice. And the people who went home right after davening, they're going to come the next day and they're going to get malchus? No, of course not. You don't get punished for not going beyond the pale. No, if you go beyond the pale, you may be rewarded, but if you don't, you won't be punished. Or let's take the flip side. You're driving in Brooklyn, Kings Highway, and East 93rd, and there's this light there. Don't go through it. Because if you go through that light, there's this flash. You're going to get in the mail 3 days later, $50 fine. You went through the red light. And you're about to say, how do they know? Maybe it was someone else. And then you open up because there's a picture of your license plate driving through the red light. $50. Right? You can get fined. Let's say you would have stopped. Would a police officer drive? Oh, wow, that was a wonderful deed that you did. Let me give you a lollipop for stopping at the red light. No. You're not rewarded for what you need to do, what you're supposed to do. You don't pay your taxes? You could get penalized. Does anybody ever get rewarded for paying their taxes? Of course not. You do what you have to do. That's it. That's the way it goes. You could get punished for not doing what you have to do, but you won't be rewarded for doing what you have to do. In this world, you'll never find one action that if you do it, you'll be rewarded, and if you don't do it, you'll be punished. Or, you'll never find one action, if you violate it, you'll be punished, and if you don't violate it, you'll be rewarded. There's no such thing in life. It's either reward is involved, or punishment is involved. But never will you have an action that the repercussions are, if you do the right thing, you'll be rewarded, and if you do the wrong thing, you'll be punished. No, I'm saying in this world, in Olam Hazeh, in society, in the way we relate in the government, in interpersonal behavior, the way we deal with people, the way we deal with our society, there is nothing in this world that will be acknowledged for if we do good, and then we'll be punished if we do bad. except Torah mitzvahs. Where the Rebbeinu Shalom says, yeah, if you learn, and you go out of your way and learn, you'll be rewarded. But if you could have been learning and you didn't, there's no neutral area in Judaism. There's no, there's this big gray area where you won't be rewarded, you won't be punished. No. Every action has dire repercussions. You do the right thing, there's schar. You do the wrong thing, there's einesh. It's unheralded, it's unparalleled anywhere else in society. There is nothing in this world, you do it right, you get rewarded, you do it wrong, you get punished. But in Judaism, in Torah mitzvahs, everything you do, it's not just if you do the right thing, you'll get Gan Eden. If you don't do the right thing, then the opposite. So Rabbi Ben Zakai is saying, it's not only that I'm worried maybe I did the wrong thing and they're taking me to Gehenna, but the prospect of going to Gehenna is doubly troubling. Because not only would that be punishment, but I'd be losing out the reward I could have got. Rabbi Ben Zakai is bringing into focus he's heightening the repercussions of every act. Because every act is not just, okay, I better not do it because I might get punished. Not only you get punished, you'll lose the reward. Or not only won't you be rewarded, you'll also be punished. Only in Torah mitzvahs do you have one act, and you have the repercussions so heavy on both sides. Okay, that's one point that we bring out from this Gemara. And if you came here, Rabbi Zakai, to hear a very inspiring, uplifting, encouraging shiur, sorry about this. Rabbi Ben Zakai. Today we're talking about a little Yiras Shamayim, a little fear. Never did anybody harm. Rabbi Ben Zakai, Rabbi Zakai, he's the Gadol Hadar. Nobody comes close to Rabbi Ben Zakai in their Torah knowledge, right? Imagine if we could see the Chafetz Chaim. It's like a Malach Hashem. The Vilna Gaon, Rashi, who is greater? Vilna Gaon or Rashi? Rashi. Who is greater, Rashi? Or Abaye? Of course, Abaye. Who is greater, Abaye or Rabbi Ben Zakai? Rabbi Ben Zakai. Forget about bringing the dead back to life. He's way beyond that. You can't even imagine the greatness of Rabbi Ben Zakai. Rabbi Ben Zakai is saying he doesn't know where he's going in the next world. He could be going to Gan Eden, or he could be going to Gehenna. I mean, just that thought should send shivers down your spine. Rabbi Ben Zakai is saying, he's crying, he doesn't know where he's going to be in Olam Haba. So I asked Rabbi Petterberg, what's his problem? Let him open up his book of Cheshbon HaNefesh. Let him read all the averos he ever did, all the seconds he ever wasted from learning, and let him do tshuva. Now we know the Vilna Gaon at the end of the year, he would say vidoy, I wasted 3.5 minutes this year from learning. 3 seconds on Tuesday, right after this, and 4 seconds, right? Gra had a cheshbon. For Gra had a cheshbon, we could be sure Rabbi Ben Zakai knew exactly how many milliseconds he... So why can't Rabbi Ben Zakai, what's he worried about? He's worried about Gehenna? Are the gates of tshuva locked to Rabbi Ben Zakai? Why doesn't he just read his Cheshbon HaNefesh? You can imagine the size of his book of Cheshbon HaNefesh. You can imagine the paper that he wrote all his averos on. It's probably, this size. There's probably nothing written on it. But whatever was written on it, so do tshuva. What, Rabbi Ben Zakai doesn't know about tshuva? Says Rabbi Petterberg. Frightening thought. The Gemara tells us in Masechta Pesachim, Daf Nun Daled, look number 9. Tanu Rabbanan, Shiva Devarim Mechusim Mibnei Adam. There are 7 things that are hidden from people and we don't have any concept of. We have no clue. We cannot even begin to scratch the surface of the depth of them. Nobody knows when they're going to die. Should be never, but nobody knows when it's going to be. Ve'oimek hadin. Nobody knows the profundity of judgment. Nobody knows how exacting the Rebbeinu Shalom could be with us. Look at Rashi number 10. Oimek hadin ha'asid. Says Rabbi Petterberg. Right? If the Arizal would come into the room now, he would look at our palms, he would look at our foreheads, and he would be able to say exactly what avera we did, when, how, why, right? He could tell us anything. So let's be sure that if the Arizal could do that, Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakai could do that. And Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakai could tell you what you did wrong. Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakai could look at himself and he could see, oh, I did this wrong, I did that wrong. But guess what? Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakai looked at his neshama, and you know what he found? It was absolutely perfect. There was no chait that he ever did. He never wasted even a millisecond. He never said one word that was improper. He never had an improper kavanah by davening. Every word of tefillah he said with perfect kavanah. Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakai said, but here's my problem. If I knew I did an aver, I would do tshuva for it. But my level of introspection is limited. So from my vantage point, I'm a perfect tzaddik, but the problem is I'm not the dayan. The Ribono Shel Olam is the dayan. And the Ribono Shel Olam may look at me and say, well, I find myself perfect, God finds me lacking. And therefore, I don't know, maybe I'm not going to Gan Eden. Maybe the Ribono Shel Olam is going to say, yes, you were the Gadol Hadar. Yes, you think you were perfect. Yes, the Arizal thought you were perfect. Yes, you can't even imagine any lacking on your part. But the Ribono Shel Olam, with his penetrating analysis, is going to say, Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakai, maybe you could have done more. And because of that, Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakai was crying that he has no idea where they're going to bring him in the next world. And that's a frightening thought. Miyamoy l'fnei hadin. Who could stand up to the judgment of Hashem? Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakai. We can't even imagine his gadlus. The moment before his patira, he's being boicha. He doesn't know where they're going to take him.
That's a simple question. What kind of vidui would he do?
That's his problem. That's his problem. He couldn't do vidui. He probably said, Ribono Shel Olam, if in case I've sinned against you, I feel bad about it, but I'm not aware of anything. And that's why the Ramah says it's harder to do tshuva for things we're masupik about than things we know about. Because it's really very hard to have proper charata and aziva for something you don't know about. But Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakai had this fear, a real fear. Now, let's not get ourselves mistaken. Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakai, it wasn't like he was afraid they were going to put him in Gehenna for 12 months like a Rasha. But rather, what was he afraid of? Rabbi Tzala points out, Rabbi Yochanan Ben Zakai was afraid he would be put in Gehenna for maybe a moment. Says Rabbi Tzala Petterberg, what's Gehenna like? So he says, he quotes the Ramban, Gehenna is not a pleasant place. Oh no. It's a bad place. Very bad place. Says the Ramban, you know how bad it is? That in this world, because we're physical, our ability to experience pain, our ability to experience pleasure is limited. It's like, let's say somebody would stick their hand in an oven wearing the oven mitt. What does he feel? A little warm, right? But he's not getting hot. Because our neshama is clothed in a body, so we can't really feel full pain and full pleasure in this world. It's like the guy who sticks his hand in the oven and his hand is covered. He can't feel pain. In this world, our capacity for punishment is limited. In Olam Haba, when the neshama is raw, its ability to experience pain, its ability to experience pleasure, is completely magnified. To the point where the Ramban says that all the Yisurim of Eov, his entire life, doesn't compare to one moment in Gehenna. That's why, if Hashem punishes a person in this world, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. You're walking down the street, and you stick your hand in your pocket, you wanted to pull out a nickel, and you pulled out a dime. The Gemara says that's also Yisurim, it's also an inconvenience. You should be jumping for joy. Why? Because you just spared yourself. In this world, the scales are much smaller. In this world, so this way you got to take away some of the Gehenna. And on the other hand, there's a concept, Hashem doesn't reward us for our mitzvahs in this world because we'd be losing out. Why give us limited reward when He could give us unlimited pleasure? Says Rav Itzel Petterberg, as much as Gehenna is almost so meaningless to us because we have no idea what it is, it's so much more meaningful than Gan Eden, right? If I tell you, you do a mitzvah, you got Gan Eden. Does that mean anything to you? What's Gan Eden? You're going to bask in the glory of the divine Shekhinah. What does that mean? We can't relate to it. Our senses are not able to sense such a pleasure. But Gehenna, at least, we could tell you, you know what fire is? So Gehenna is hotter. So you think about fire. But Gan Eden, we can't even begin to relate to. So Rav Itzl Petterberg says, let me just give you a little inkling of how wonderful Gan Eden is. How wonderful Olam Haba is. When you do a mitzvah, the tremendous char. Yeah, and with this we'll close.
Rabbi Ben Zakai was worried about spending a nanosecond.
A nanosecond.
Right? But he had to believe he was going to survive, and the Neshama was going to survive because he had so many zechuyos.
Yeah.
Right? So he was that worried about spending such.
Look, the Ramban says that one moment there is worse than all the Yisurim in this world put together.
But you survive. I mean, the Neshama survived.
But he knows it's a cleansing state.
I'll give you a little example. Okay? Rav Itzl Petterberg says like this. Let's take a look first at the Gemara Masechta Chagiga. Look at number 15. Okay? Try to do this quickly. Kinach nafshei da'acher, right? We know there's somebody by the name of Acher, Elisha ben Avuya. He was a well-established, well-acclaimed apikoros. He went off the derech. He was Mechalo Shabbos, B'far Hesia. He was riding on his horse on Shabbos. And not only that, he was the Rebbe of Rav Meir. And when Rav Acher goes up to Shamayim, and Shamayim, they don't know what to do with the guy. They can't throw him into Gehenna. Why? Because he learned too much Torah. And we know a Talmid Chacham is impervious to the fires of Gehenna. But they couldn't give him reward because he's too big of a Rasha. So they put him in Switzerland. In, no man's territory. In neutral zone. No reward, no punishment. Right? In a buffer zone. They couldn't, pierce him with thumbtacks, and they couldn't let him bask in the divine presence. Until Rav Meir said, I have Rachmanis on my Rebbe Acher. I want him to go to Gan Eden. When I die, said Rav Meir, I'm going to go up to Shamayim, I'm going to throw Rebbe Acher into Gehenna, he'll burn there on the barbecue for I don't know how long, and then eventually he'll go into Gan Eden. And the Kachava, when Rav Meir died, smoke started coming out of the grave of Acher. That signified the fact that Acher was now in Gehenna. He was out of Switzerland. He was out of the buffers, the no man's land. They threw him into Gehenna. So you hear what happened? Rav Meir davened that Hashem shall rachmanis on Acher and throw him into Gehenna to get Gan Eden. Rabbi Yochanan, otherwise he'll never get into Gan Eden. Rabbi Yochanan sees smoke coming out of Acher's kever. Rabbi Yochanan said, come on, let's save the poor man. How long is he going to toast for? Right? No one should ever try it. But to put, one time, my urn wasn't working. And the button was getting stuck, and I wasn't smart, I was fooling around. I burnt my hand a little bit. No, it was nothing. Baruch Hashem, Hashem Yishmerenu. It should be the worst thing that happens. So fine, you put the bacitracin, and a week later, the skin. You put your hand on the barbecue, it's a big problem. Right? It's a problem, yeah? You sit in Gehenna on the barbecue for a long time, it ain't pleasant. First the meat turns into charcoal, maybe to wood, then it fossilizes. I don't know what happens after 10 years, after 100 years. And Rabbi Yochanan sees the smoke coming out of Acher's grave. And Rabbi Yochanan says, I got to help the guy. So he pulls him out of Gehenna and he brings him into Gan Eden. Says Rabbi Itzl Petterberg, he said, I want to ask you a question. We don't want to talk about me and you. Talk about somebody, Yankel ben Beryl. You say, Yankel ben Beryl, you need money? Yeah. I need some extra cash. No problem. Stick out your finger on the table. We're going to take a hammer. We're going to bam your finger, break it. We'll give you $10,000. Don't worry, you'll put a cast on, you'll do physical therapy. In a year it'll be fine. It's going to hurt. It's really going to hurt. You ready to do it? What does Yankel ben Beryl say? Thanks, but no thanks. I'm happy. Because most people would spend the $10,000 to heal their finger. So to have their finger imagine you tell someone, you need money, I'll give you $1 million if I could take this rusty nail. Take the rusty and I'll just, turn it through your arm. $100,000, you won't die, it will hurt. Oh, it will hurt. But is anyone taking $100,000 to have the rusty nail stuck through their arm? Very unlikely. Most people most people are willing to give up a lot of benefit to avoid pain. A lot. You tell someone, I'll give you $10 million, just let me take the baseball bat, smash the guy over the head. Don't worry, you'll wake up eventually. You know, we have all the doctors here, it's proven studies. It will kill. You'll have a terrible headache for 3 days, $10 million. Most people are not going to do it. You know, you can retire, you never have to work a day in your life. I'd rather work for my whole life than to suffer that pain. So the Ritzel Petterberg, it's well known that people are willing to give up a lot of good to avoid suffering. Nobody wants to suffer. Forget the money, forget the extra honor. Most sane people, most normal people, it's going to take I'll give you enough money to offset the United States deficit. Don't touch me. Don't lay your hands on me. I'm happy with what I have. Says Ritzel Petterberg. How bad is Gehenna? Again, I'm sorry, if this is not the type of shiur you thought you were coming to today, if you thought it was like going to be all rosy, sorry about that. Says Ritzel Petterberg, how bad was Gehenna? One moment of Gehenna, if you take all the Yisurim in Olam Hazeh and you pack it into one moment of time, Gehenna is worse than that. So how much benefit would you have to give someone to say, go to Gehenna so you could get some benefit? It's impossible. Nobody would take anything in the world to sit in Gehenna for 1 second. If you're not going to allow someone to stick the rusty nail into you, nobody's going to go to Gehenna for even 1 second for all the reward in the world. And yet Reb Meir, he's davening, Ribono shel olam, have rachmanis on acher. So Hashem says, Rachmanis, I am having Rachmanis. He's not in Gehenna. He's in no man's land. No, Reb Meir said, but he's not in Gan Eden. Do you know what he's losing out on? Hashem says, what do you want me to do to him? Reb Meir said, I want you to put him in Gehenna. It's worth it to go to Gehenna to be able to go to Gan Eden? How great is Gan Eden? Gan Eden must be so incredibly, unimaginably wonderful that it's kedai to go to Gehenna, which is the worst suffering imaginable, to be able to go to Gan Eden. Now, how long was Acher in Gehenna for? Says Rav Ritzel Petterberg, if you know anything about Jewish history, we know Reb Meir was a student of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, the day Rabbi Akiva died, who was born? Rabbi Yehuda. Who came after Rabbi Yehuda? Many, many Rosh Yeshiva, until finally Rabbi Yochanan came. Do you know how many years there were between the death of Reb Meir and the death of Rabbi Yochanan? 150 years. You know how long Acher was sitting burning in Gehenna? 150 years on the barbecue. You know what happens to the steak after it's on the fire for 150 years?
Very well done.
Very well done. So Reb Meir is davening, Ribono shel olam, put Acher on the barbecue for 150 years so he could get Gan Eden, have Rachmanis on him. We would think that's insane. Because to experience pain like that, there's nothing that you could give anybody to make it worth it. And yet, we see from the Gemara, as much as Gan Eden is so unimaginable to us, and we can't relate to it, and we can't fathom it, and we can't begin to scratch the surface of how amazing it is, you have to know that Gan Eden is so amazing that Acher would be suffering had he not had the opportunity to sit in Gehenna for 150 years just to be able to go to Olam Haba, to Gan Eden. Says Rav Ritzel Petterberg, the Gemara says in Masechta Tamid that they asked Alexander the Great asked the Chachamim 10 questions. One of them was, Eizehu Chacham? Haroyas Hanoilad, if you see what's going to be in the future. Says Rav Ritzel, what does that mean? Who's a wise man who could see what's going to be in the future? What's the future? The future is, you know who's really wise? Somebody who's able to think what's going to be when he leaves this temporary Olam Hazeh. What's going to be his eternity? That's the real Chachma. Like the Pasuk says Rav Ritzel, there's a Pasuk in Iyov. Look at number 21. Hein Yiras Hashem Hi Chachma. Behold, fear of God is wisdom. Says the Gemara in Shabbos, the word Hein is a Greek word. In Greek, hein means one. One thing is wisdom. If you know this, you're a chacham. If you don't know this, you're not a chacham. Yiras Hashem. Yiras Hashem. Says Mesilas Hashem, look at number 23. V'nei ha'kasav omer. Hein yiras Hashem hi chachma. Behold, the fear of God is wisdom. V'amar Rabbi Seinu Zechronim Levracha. Hein achas. Harei shehayira hi chachma. Fear of Hashem is wisdom. V'hi levada chachma. That's the only wisdom. Biology, chemistry, astronomy, physics. It's like a comic book. Even Torah knowledge itself, compared to Yiras Shamayim, is not the same chachma. You know what real chachma is? Whatever we spoke about today. Thinking about Olam Haba, even though we think about it so rarely. And maybe we don't talk about it. We like to serve Hashem b'simcha. It's not the most pleasant. These are not the most pleasant thoughts. But ultimately, we have to understand, Rebbeinu Shalom gave us first the Rosh Hashanah and then a Yom Kippur. Why? Because Hashem, yes, He wants to give us good health. He wants to give us parnasa. He wants to give us nachas. But even more than that, He wants to give us olam haba. And that's the objective of Yom Kippur. That when a Yom Kippur comes, we have to think this is the greatest day of the year. It's the day that we could benefit ourselves forever and ever and ever. You do a small tshuva. Even on Yom Kippur, if you say, Ribbanu Shalom, I spoke Lashon Hara this year 10 times every day, I'm only going to speak 9 times a day. You accomplish the most unbelievable thing forever and ever and ever. You make one small change on Yom Kippur, you had a great Yeshua, you had a great salvation. Hashem should give us siyata d'shmaya. We should be able to take advantage of Yom Kippur. Hashem should be mechaper ol ha'avonos. Hashem should be zoicha rachama yizakenu limoitz ha'mashiach. L'chayu olam.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.